everyone got a little taste and view of what mind control is really all about. So mind control is a sliding scale, and it's very, very pervasive in so many different levels. Our saving grace is our wisdom, and wisdom comes with free thought. So ultimately, we have the victory within us. We just need to remember love is the most powerful force in the universe. Perpetrators only have as much power as we give them or let them steal. We have all the power, and people are starting to remember that and starting to reclaim that. The greatest fear is the strength of the human spirit, because when we have the strength of spirit, we win. It's our victory. It's our saving grace. So they can't, it's such a high vibration, they can't reach it.
Right, everyone, welcome back. And I am co-hosting with my amazing friend Brice from Esoteric Atlanta. And Brice and I are co-hosting today one of our absolutely favourite guests in so many ways, the amazing Cathy O'Brien. And Cathy, we've spoken to you several times before, and Brice and I were just saying there's so much we want to talk to you about, because you've got so much lived experience. You've got so much knowledge and wisdom to share. It's almost difficult to know where to start.
It's so nice to be with you too. And yeah, I think we could talk forever. There's so much happening in our world today. And it's just, I'm deeply encouraged to see people waking up and taking responsibility for their own lives. They're finally not waiting on big government to live their lives for them anymore. And it's such an amazing time to be alive.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, because I was thinking about that too. I think those of us who have like worked in alternative health or have been kind of aware of things for a long time, we forget, like if you think about 10 years ago, 2015, how far humanity kind of has come. We realize now how much lying there is in the world and how much, power has been removed from us. But that power can only be removed from us if we kind of allow it. So to pull that back in, to rein that back in, that sovereignty back in, there has been a lot of change in 10 years from the mass consciousness of people.
There has. And, it's like the administration that we have right now is doing what they can to clean the mess up, but it's a global mess. It's going to take a long time. And they're not our answer anyway. That's why we keep being told the power has been returned to the people. And people don't even know what that means. They're so used to being without it that they are having a harder time grasping the concept of, oh, that means it's up to us. That means we're free to live our lives now. And once they realize that, they'll find there's no obstacles in our path anymore. We're not being stopped from people helping people. We're not being stopped from getting out in our communities and making that difference now. We're supported in that. But it's still an interesting transition while people realize I've got my power back. What does that mean? They don't even know what it means. And it's like, we've got all the power, people. We always have. We just forgot.
I really wanted to ask you that. I'm so pleased you both raised that, because one of the things I wanted to ask you about, Cathy, and I might not phrase this in the best way, but at the moment, mind control, in one respect, I think it's a very overused word, we're using it. But in the other respect, I think it's very underused, because most people have no idea of all the ways they're under mind control. Now, you've got so much experience because you've been under and subjected the worst and most extreme type. Could you sort of outline to people that this is quite new to what mind control is, and the extreme that you went through and the MK Ultra program, but how that's relevant to people living their everyday lives that probably have no idea that they're under some form of mind control?
Yes, excellent question. Because like 35 years ago, when I began speaking know, people had now.
Oh, we've lost you, Cathy.
Of course, we lost her. The most
Yeah,
important.
the moment we go on to the deep stuff, we've lost
Can I
Cathy.
light some sage?
Just wait for, yes, I think that's a good idea. Have you got
A
any?
classroom.
Oh,
A
sorry, we lost you,
We lost
Cathy.
you.
Just at the thing. So you were just saying, if you could go back to the beginning about that, 35 years ago, I think you were saying people hadn't really heard of it.
Yeah, I noticed you froze up. So I guess if I see you freeze up, it means I'm not
Yeah.
working. It's not working on my end either. Okay. All right. So yeah, 35 years ago when I started speaking out on MK Ultra mind control and healing from it, people had no point of reference for the information. And they do have a point of reference these days. When mind control masked as a virus was unleashed on a global population, everyone got a little taste and view of what mind control is really all about. So mind control is a sliding scale, and it's very, very pervasive in so many different levels. And the formula is the same, whether it's of an individual, a nation, a classroom, a military, or the world. Trauma is the basis of it. And that formula for mind control came into the US in the wake of World War II through Project Paperclip. When we imported the Nazi and fascist scientists into the US, with them came the formula for mind control. And immediately, the National Security Act was formed and the CIA went into place. The National Security Act was intended to suppress the information on mind control because knowledge is our defense against it. And the CIA was formed to start implementing it and enforcing it and bringing it about the globalist slave society agenda. Ultimately, the goal of it is to shut down neuron pathways in the human brain so that people are more in attuned to the flat linear low vibration thinking of artificial intelligence. So this plan to dumb us down to that zone has been in place for a long, long time. And it had been decided back then that Project Monarch would be the best sub project of MK Ultra to enforce on the whole global population. That's the one that I experienced because of the multi-generational abuse in my family. It had been found in Himmler research that after 3 generations, any knowledge base, abuse base, or a belief system becomes autogenic in the brain. It's genetically passed down. So it was thought that if they slowly condition society to be compliant, if they slowly condition society to accept the pedophile agenda, which is a mind control agenda, if they were able to do that, they could bring us to the point really where we are today. And it slowly crept in, affected humanity, and has been eroding the essence of our humanity for a long time. That pedophile agenda, it was found in the Himmler research. Again, there's no trauma more horrific on the human mind than sexual abuse of a child prior to age 5 while the brain is still forming. This pedophile agenda is not about sexual preference. It's not even about perversion. It's about power and control. It's about de-evolving the human race to align with artificial intelligence, to align with a criminal mind agenda. They're very low vibration. Our saving grace is our wisdom, and wisdom comes with free thought. So ultimately, we have the victory within us. We just need to remember that it is, because we have been conditioned for so long from the kind of torturous, robotic MK Ultra mind control I experienced to information control.
Yeah.
We all formulate our thoughts, opinions, and actions based on what we know. That knowledge base has been deliberately altered for a long, long time to make us compliant, to keep us looking outside ourselves to big government, big pharma, big tech, big cult to cult religion to tell us how to live our lives. It's been doing that and eroding our humanity for a long, long time, till now we're at this point where we see the artificial intelligence trying to creep in. We see that the sexualization of our children has become one of the most lucrative businesses on our planet. How did we get to that point? Mind control. Of course, mind control affects us all. It's been used on us all.
Now, I have a question, Cathy. This brought up something. I'm going to see if I can find it. How with women as well, we've seen kind of an attack again on women. And there was a Sabrina, now I don't listen to Sabrina Carpenter, but there was an album cover that caused a lot of controversy. And I'm gonna see if I can find it. And people in the here it is. Catherine, can I share screen?
Yeah, you should be
Because
able
I don't know if I can, I want to make sure, I don't want to if you have children, this was the album cover.
Oh, yes.
So very derogatory towards women. And, a lot of women, especially young girls, are like praising her for being a feminist, but this is not, what you do with your husband and behind closed doors is out of respect and love, but putting this on so are they also removing the female? Are they trying to like knock out the female energy by making it cool to call women hoes and sluts and is this part of it too, Cathy, when we see stuff
It
like
is. Yeah, if the erosion of our humanity includes eroding the family unit, to erode the love unity that actually occurs and how human procreation continues,
Yeah.
so we look at how many ways that's been disrupted, attacked, whether it's on the male, whether it's on the female, whether it's on promoting the transgender movement, which ultimately is not only a mind control agenda, but it is a depopulation agenda too, because there's no human procreation. I look back on the amazing love relationship that I had with Mark Phillips, and the beauty of all that was so amazing, because after 30 years of being used as a sex slave, in so many ways, when Mark and I fell in love, what we shared, it was as though he were my first, as though he were the
Yeah.
first man, because of the love, because of that, the love vibration, what that does, what that is something completely, vastly different from perverse sex. So the taking that away from humanity, it's removing us from not only our family unit, human procreation, but it's also distorting our love vibration, because love is the most powerful force in the universe. We look at it energetically. It's the most beautiful, powerful force. And love is attacked from every angle. And that's something that we need to get back to. It's like, even in ways that society was conditioned to, at a certain age, you're supposed to be married and have kids and blah, blah, do this, do that, in this order, blah. No, it doesn't work that way. What about soulmate? What about love? What about, that
Yeah.
absolute massive beauty that happens when people who belong together fall in love? So to have had that extreme difference experience in my own life gives me great insight into the attack, not only on the family unit, but on the infinite power of love, on the essence of our humanity. Again, our humanity is under attack to align us with artificial intelligence. Love does not fit into that
Yeah.
vibration. So it's under attack. And we need to just remind people what love really is about. I think that's our next evolutionary step, is for people to remember love is the most powerful force in the universe.
Very true. And I think, you can see how cleverly, I mean, you hit on earlier, Cathy, about how this is such a long-term plan for these people. You know, they're talking generational. You know, most of us are sort of might have a 3-year plan for our lives or something, but they're patient and they will really plan things generations in advance. And I'd love you, for our audience, just to touch a little bit more on the Project Monarch side of things, and also in particular, Cathy, the altars, because a lot of people are seeing this with public celebrities when they break in and out of this trauma programming. And I sent Brice something just before this show, actually, where Alex Jones is posting some bizarre stuff on X, and this snapping of people's personalities and control methods, it can be so obvious if you've got someone like poor Britney Spears, but also that can filter down on so many of us in lesser ways into our everyday life, as to why people aren't brave enough to say no, because they are in such trauma, really.
Yeah, it is. Mind control is absolute, and it creates compartmentalization of memory. It capitalizes on our brain's natural defense against trauma, too horrible to comprehend. When our brains experience trauma, if it's a national trauma or a global trauma, the conscious mind freezes in fright and leaves our subconscious mind wide open to being easily led and programmed. Ultimately, especially with repetitive media narrative, like if people aren't using their conscious mind filter, if that conscious mind filter is distracted, then it's just information going in, and ultimately that information
Oh. Anyone watching this, apologies for the internet outages. We do often get their stoke with Brice when we're talking about really important issues, and people might
neuron that trauma.
Oh, sorry, we lost you again.
We
Yeah.
lost you again. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
but yeah, they're going in and out of the trauma, you were saying.
Well, and I was thinking too, so when we talk about like these what you're saying, I think, Catherine, too, is like, and I have read this before with like DID, dissociated identity disorder, where people can go into multiple and they don't remember what the other personality is doing.
right.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like they know, so from the age of an infant to 5 years old, in a healthy environment, a child is learning how to develop different personalities to handle different things in their lives, but they're merging those personalities together into one being. But if you can abuse a child at that very important part of brain development, when those personalities are being formed to handle, that's when they can separate and shatter. Is that correct? To become like different alternates?
That is a very interesting perspective on it. Ultimately, it's not multiple personalities; it's one personality being shattered. So the part of the brain that deals with a certain abuse can be triggered open to deal with that abuse again and again as needed, and then this part over here that endured a different kind of abuse can be triggered open to deal with the abuse again and again as needed. And because the neuron pathways are shut down in the brain, there's no intercommunication between this part and this part. So ultimately, there is no formation of a personality. It never does come together as the strength and the vast capability that normal brains would develop. Instead, it's all compartmentalized with no intercommunication. And with no intercommunication, there's no expansion beyond that abuse. So after a while, like by the time Mark Phillips lifted me out of the Washington, D.C. human trafficking swamp, I didn't know good people existed in the world. I didn't know there was a place where there wasn't abuse, because abuse was all the parts of my brain knew. And that is a very deliberate disruption. It's why our children are targeted, because if they experience trauma prior to age 5 while the brain is still forming, then that creates that sectioning off of the brain, and it continues to develop that way unless healing occurs. And the information on healing has been suppressed very deliberately under national security ever since mind control was imported into the US. So with that natural, our birthright information to healing being suppressed, people haven't known how to heal from that. Instead, therapy has been taught very, very wrong how to help. I feel for the survivors who are emerging today, because they're emerging into a very ignorant world, one that does not know how to even help. And when survivors are safe, they need a safe place to be, then they can heal from within, just as I did. And that's a natural process. When we heal from within, we open those neuron pathways in the brain so that we can't be triggered anymore. We get that. We get to pull it all together, to have that personality that was meant to be from the beginning. It's like what happens to us in life isn't who we are. Who we are is still within us. When we pull that together, we find that it has been divinely protected, and that we have this ability to live the life we were intended to live the purity and authenticity of who we really are. So that's still within us. And no matter what happens to us, we can reclaim that. In so many ways, everyone, everywhere needs to go within and reclaim that, to remember who they are and why they're here at this pivotal moment in humanity's history.
Yeah.
Just
So what
so
are some, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Catherine.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's so incredible. Every time I speak to you, Cathy, and I think you feel the same, Brice, is that there's so much trauma in the world, you know, so many people going through so much. But every time I speak to you, you are literally a walking, living example that you can go through the worst of the worst that anyone can be subjected to and heal yourself and live a happy life. I mean, so many people really get told that that just isn't possible, and as you say, don't have the resources available. Do you see improvements in that at the moment? Do you see hope for that? And how does that link in with the very public Epstein fiasco that's going on? I'd love to tie the two together in terms of what you're seeing on this public stage, of course, what we're being chosen to show to the mass public, and how that fits into your knowledge of how this plays out in general.
Oh, that's just it's so brilliant. This whole Epstein thing, I'm very concerned for the survivors, because they haven't been healed from within. And if they're not healed from within, they can still be triggered. If they can be triggered, they're vulnerable. There are those who see that vulnerability and capitalize on it. And it puts survivors in a very dangerous position. So they really need to know that they can heal from within. They can write out memory, journal it, whatever they do it in silence, and heal themselves and reclaim their birthright to be whole and happy and live the love they are. But instead, we get bombarded with really bad therapy, whether it's from life coaches who are themselves victims who, have yet to heal, or if it's from therapists who have been indoctrinated in the school system to perpetuate a victim mentality to keep people suggestible, because that's definitely been the agenda in mental health for a long time. Or whether it's churches who have their own misperceptions on what to do with people who have been abused, where they tell them all you have to do is believe you're healed. And that does not open those neuron pathways. It doesn't diffuse the triggering. It doesn't diffuse the program and the triggering. And that, again, leaves them very vulnerable. So we have many different aspects of the way survivors aren't being helped. The worst one is hypnosis, because the brain needs to be safe. When the compartmentalization began in my brain in infancy, It began with my father's sexual abuse and everything else. And it happened in my brain before I could even think to know what he was doing was wrong, because it's an autogenic brain response. Likewise, when we're safe, those neuron pathways start opening up. So we need a safe environment. And that safety comes when we're not being intruded upon, when we're not being programmed over, when we're not being indoctrinated with a belief system, when someone's not manipulating the subconscious with hypnosis, because ultimately the brain recognizes that and will not heal. The neuron pathways will not open back up when it's being intruded upon. So when we heal from within, we stop that intrusion. We have that capacity. Of course, if our brains have been made so divinely perfect that they shut down neuron pathways, they certainly can open them, but we need to remember that and do that for ourselves. Healing is an individual journey, and we need time and safety in order to do that. I'm encouraged that there's so many survivors who have come out that do not want to maintain a victim mentality, that want to reclaim their joy, that want to be able to live free, that they're not accepting the bad therapeutic, whether it's well-intentioned or not, from outside input anymore. So they're wanting answers. It has given me voice so much that I'm as busy as I can possibly be. And ultimately, I'm helping those who are helping survivors rather than the survivors themselves, because if they're making a safe place for survivors, they need to know that those survivors don't need their intrusive belief systems imposed on them. They just need their own space to heal, and that it's keeping me very busy, because safe houses are opening up everywhere, because we know the system's corrupted. We know the system is helping. It's only perpetuating the problem. So people are helping people now, and it's exciting to see the transition. But we got a long way to go, and it's like, as fast as it's happening now, I've waited for this my whole life. I wish it would happen faster, because I'm very concerned for the Epstein survivors and all who are speaking out before they're ready.
Yeah, that's important, isn't it? People want to push victims to speak out and say
Yes.
something, but someone has to be ready to do that. No, I have someone like we'll take like a Britney Spears, and we see what's
Yeah.
going on with her, and everybody's very concerned. What is happening with her neurologically for this? Is the programming wearing off? Is her soul bucking back? Like, what happens when we see something like that from your perspective? Because obviously that's a side effect of extreme abuse, I would assume, and mind control. So what are we seeing with her right now from your perspective with her behavior?
I think we're seeing exactly what we're supposed to see. It's supposed to make survivors feel like they'll never be well. It's deliberate social engineering to continue a victim mentality. So what we're seeing is Brittany being used to create that illusion, because that poor thing has tried so hard to come out and break free. And like Kanye West, every time she says MK Ultra, she's, reeled back in. And it's because she hasn't had the safe place to start her own healing process. And, I hold the vision of that for her someday. I
It's
hope
sad.
that people become aware enough to be able to help Brittany and those like her, and to recognize how she is being used to perpetuate a victim mentality very deliberately. Very
So
sad for
it's not,
that.
this is not her screaming out for help. This is her being used as an MK Ultra person to make other survivors perhaps look crazy and
Yeah.
look, yeah,
Because
that's
she
very
did
sad.
try to come out. She did
Yeah.
say it. People do know it. They've recognized it. So now they're making it look like, oh well, there's no hope if you do realize you're under mind control. And that's not true at all. And she's just being used to create that illusion. Oh, bless her heart.
Tragic. It's just absolutely tragic. And what I find so upsetting is the fact that so many people realize that, but we can't help her.
Mm-hmm.
It's really awful. Yeah, to see it, there's so many atrocities going on in plain sight where the abusers are still getting away from it. I mean, Cathy, with your years and years of experience on both sides of the fence, do you see this a lot with public personalities, with politicians and things like that, where you can spot the signs?
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, when they're in a high profile situation, it's harder for them to be able to break free because there's too many people that have, you know, control over that particular person, especially if they're making a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
Back in the day when Mark had rescued my daughter and me, the LaToya Jackson came out and was exposing what was going on in the Jackson family and what was happening to Michael and the MK Ultra, the whole thing. She was exposing it all from the earliest childhood abuse and how it affected everyone. She put a book out, and because she was so high profile, she was reeled back in and just torn apart. And it was very sad to see because I really thought at the time that the intention behind her coming forward would succeed in raising that awareness because as a public figure, she would have a bigger voice. It's like, yes, we got this. We got this. No, not at all. It was quite the opposite because she was then reeled back in. And Mark told me, he said that he reminded me, he said, you're very fortunate that you're not a public figure that was used in that capacity, because if I had been, it would have been extremely difficult for us to have survived to this point. Instead, in spite of me being used on a White House Pentagon level, I was not a public figure, you know.
You were
Quite
not.
the contrary.
So do they put a lot of like these A-lister, not saying like every actor, but a lot of like the A-lister actors are probably most likely been placed there
Yeah,
in that
yeah,
capacity.
absolutely. And in so many ways like that. And um, the uh, the entertainment industries and the sports, and there's nothing that hasn't been
Good old internet.
They don't want us talking about this, do they?
No, it's
Well,
always at really key points.
yeah,
Oh, back
yeah,
out.
there you are. You're back again. Thank God
okay.
the three of us are not celebrities because they would really not like us talking about this.
I froze up again. So
Yeah.
yeah, and you just froze up while you were saying that. So yeah, are we a go again?
So
We don't consent to the darkness messing with this. We don't consent.
exactly.
Go
We
away.
will persist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you haven't shut us up yet.
So from your experience in terms of recognizing and the tools to actually heal from within that you said, you mentioned right at the start, Cathy, about people, we're also much more powerful and we've got a lot more um power and ability to say no to things we don't like, but it's so hard for most people are so caught into, I hate to say it, but like the matrix of, this is what your politicians or your laws of your country and things say. And we saw that happen big time in 2020 and the few years around there with the pandemic, of how easily they were able to globally roll out this plan. What are you thinking now in terms of when people are watching it and sort of thinking, I don't understand how I resist, what do I actually do? If they're planning another pandemic, which I think they probably are, we've got a big event in London called Operation Pegasus, which is the equivalent of what they did in New York, the event 201, just before they rolled out the last one. What words of wisdom have you got, Cathy, for people, ordinary people who are sitting there thinking, I don't know what to do to break free of this system?
Well, at this point, I'm seeing where the big mistake was made with mind control masked as a virus when they told us to shelter at home.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, they're low vibration, flat linear thinkers. They're not very bright. And they made a big mistake telling us shelter at home because that broke routine patterns. When you break routine patterns, it forces the brain to fire in new ways. You have to think of new things. You have to, so it opened neuron pathways. Mind control shuts them down. That opened neuron pathways. And because it did, people started noticing what their children were being indoctrinated with in the school system. They started seeing what the media was doing, telling us violence was peace and peace was violence. It didn't make any sense anymore. So people started waking up. What is difficult for people today, that way I see it, is that they're having extreme difficulty dealing with the guilt and the grief of having complied. They masked up the children, causing an identity disorder because it depersonalizes. It caused an identity disorder that the schools redefined as a gender disorder so that they could push the transgender movement in. They realized that it inhibited oxygen to the brain necessary for critical analysis, free thought. They realized the injections, they're seeing the children die. They're seeing the horrors of what's happening because they had that done. So they're having the guilt of that. And I suggest to everyone to understand that mind control is absolute. And like Mark told me, we are not responsible for what happens, what we're forced to do under mind control. Our abusers are. They need to be held accountable for those actions. Mm-hmm. What we need to do is realize now that we are responsible for all our actions going forward. That means we never comply again. We evolve with the knowledge that's our defense against mind control. And we effectively protect our children going forward. These are really important things. So people are wanting to know, how do I do that? How do I get from this point to that point? And I just posted PTSD Time to Heal on my website so everyone can have it. It's a simple, easy workbook, a reminder of our birthright information, how to reclaim our free thought, free will, that Mark taught me. This is how I healed. So I can post that information that was buried under national security for generations. It was buried under there to perpetuate the victim mentality. Mark couldn't release it because he worked intelligence and was bound by laws of sedition. I could release it because it's my experience to have healed, and I am not bound by laws of sedition. So it's posted right there. Simple, thin little workbook that everyone can use and apply to themselves. And I encourage everyone to do it. Everyone, pick up that pen and paper, write out your fear and trauma. It opens neuron pathways in the brain to move a pen. If we put writing by hand back in the school system, we stop the indoctrination of our children. We all can use this to reclaim and retain our free thought going forward. One simple little brain trick. There's many more little tips in PTSD Time to Heal that people can apply. So as more and more people are realizing this and reclaiming their own power, the ability for them to impose this on us again will continue to fail. Those perpetrators only have as much power as we give them or let them steal. We have all the power, and people are starting to remember that and starting to reclaim that. So it's an evolutionary time we're living.
Hi everyone, it's Catherine here. And before I dive into today's episode, I want to really quickly share something that's so important to me. I love hosting this podcast because it allows us all to explore those big questions, challenge our programming, and uncover the natural truths that truly empower us. But did you know my real passion's working one-on-one with animals and people, helping you or your animal cut through the noise, find the root cause of imbalances, stress, illnesses, or really just create a personalized plan that actually works for you. So whether you're here for your own healing or you're a dedicated animal guardian, wanting the very best for your dog, cat, horse, any four-legged or scaled or winged companion, I'm here for you both. I work with animals and humans, but I especially love helping the animals thrive. That is my real happy place. So my recharge and reset consultations and online courses are packed with practical tools, printable resources, lifelong access. And the main thing is you'll never feel alone on this journey. And they work. Just head over to my website and check out the testimonials. So if you're really ready to take action and not just listen, head over to CatherineEdwards.life, that's Catherine with the C and .life at the end, and explore my courses and consults. Or if you want to, book a free 15-minute chat to see if I can help, because it's really important we stop outsourcing our health, really look after our animal companions better than before, and start leading by example. Now back to the podcast. Thank
And
you.
it's funny, down here in Georgia, living in Georgia, half the state didn't lock down anyway. Like we went back to, I mean, my boyfriend opened his business in Atlanta 2 weeks after lockdown. He said, screw this. And because of, for Georgia, people didn't do it. And so I don't think they'll do it again, especially down here in the deep South. I always laugh at like we gotta love the rednecks. They really pull through for us. But I was going to ask you too, when the lockdown happened, and I remember immediately I felt like something was weird. Like I was like, this is weird. Like this is not, and a lot of people were stressing out. So some of us were kind of like, wait a minute, record scratch, like this doesn't make sense. But then we started seeing like a massive, like I'm still actually shocked at how so many people went from being pro-vaccine to anti-overnight. Like something woke up. And maybe it's what you're saying, Cathy, is these neuropath, they started to actually have time to critically think. But then we also see such a backlash, especially here in the United States. I see a lot of postings from like parent school board meetings with just parents like coming in just violently angry, rightly so, about their kids' homework. And there was a very big reel that went around, went viral, maybe about a year ago, to maybe a year and a half ago, about a mayor of a town somewhere in the Midwest showed up at the school board meeting on behalf of the parents. They had gone to the mayor, showed the mayor the homework for these elementary school children. The mayor had taken that homework to a judge in the town. The judge said, yes, this actually is child pornography. Mayor went to the board meeting, told the board they have two choices. They can either resign or have a warrant for their arrest written up right now by a judge. And so we're seeing this like major clapback, as the kids say. And I'm assuming that the powers that be did not expect that to happen.
Well, absolutely. They thought they had this on so many levels, but it fell apart 2016, and it continues to fall apart. In 2020, they went all in with mind control masked as a virus, trying to regain control, and even that backfired on them. So the Great Awakening is very, very real. It's happening, accelerating as more and more people wake up. It's perpetuating itself. The collective consciousness is raising the whole vibration, and more people are waking up. We have passed critical mass. There's more people awake and aware now than ever before, and now we have a lot of catching up to do, because we have a lot of standing up to do to reclaim life the way that it's intended to be lived. So it's happening as the Board of Education is being dissolved and the federal government's being extracted out of the school system. It's given power back to the states, which gives power back to the communities, which gives power back to the parents. And pretty soon we're not going to have these battles anymore. It's going to go, back to the old PTA meetings for those who even go to public school, because somewhere along the way where people have pulled back and are looking at that saying, why do we even have that to begin with? Why aren't we just teaching our children the morals and decency and how to take care of the environment and take care of each other? And, why aren't we doing this other direction? So we got a lot of change.
I learned on TikTok that anti-homeschooling movement was Nazi propaganda. The Nazis made it illegal in Germany during World War II for parents to homeschool their children, and that started the propaganda about not homeschooling and forcing kids into schools. And so it's interesting. I remember that, just learning that recently. I was like, oh my God, this also goes back to Hitler. This also goes back to World War II, this idea that we're not going to homeschool anymore. You need to send your kids to an institution to be, and when I was a kid, my parents, I mean, I went to a private school, but private schools are still just as guilty, but my parents checked our homework every night. And I guess people get so busy now that they don't even check their kids' homework anymore. So
I think with both parents working now in most of our countries, it's very, very hard to raise a family without both parents out at work. So
yeah,
again, another part of the agenda. And one thing I wanted to ask you about, Cathy and Brice, actually, is I do agree there's huge amounts of people waking up. But I also, on the other side of things, see some very obvious examples of where it's still working perfectly for the parasites at the top, so to speak. So a classic example I would say is in the UK, like a lot of countries, we've got a very bad illegal immigration problem. Of course, we all know by design. And what they've now done is stirred up the British public who think it's coming from a grassroots level, a bit like Black Lives Matter. It's exactly the same playbook as Black Lives Matter was in America. We've now got everyone putting up British flags, UK flags, and huge protests being organised, but it's all orchestrated. When you can see the playbook, but to get them to be able to be mass conflicts on the street so they can bring in digital ID even quicker. So even though I love the fact that we all think, yes, a lot of people are waking up, I honestly feel a little bit despair when I see how easily they're playing us again.
Those are, again, people that are being mind controlled and brought in very deliberately for
Yeah.
that situation to create the situation. How are we going to cooperate with it? My daughter Kelly and I were talking the other day, and she was so brilliant, saying, "Yeah, the Great Awakening is massive. We've definitely passed critical mass, but wow, people got a long way to go to catch up." And I thought that was just such a great perspective, because they do. Now we have to undo this mess. Now we have to evolve with the knowledge that's our defense going forward, so that no matter how they push, that we don't comply, that we've realized what's going on in our streets. And, we've got an opportunity in front of us that it is happening, and it can't happen fast enough.
Yeah.
After speaking up for 35 years, I have definitely learned patience, but at the same time,
I haven't yet. Sorry. Yeah.
I realized that in my patience, that ultimately it's going to take everyone everywhere to be waking up. It takes all of us. When Mark and I would talk about what it would take to unravel the New World Order, we knew it couldn't be done politically, because then it would just create a vacuum and more of the same would go in. And that's kind of how the structure of the plan has perpetuated. So we need something different. It takes everybody to wake up. So it's spiritually evolutionary, it's mentally evolutionary, it's an evolutionary time we're living. And while we're going through the curve, those who are still programmed are being activated very deliberately into very violent situations. School shootings still happening here. They're being activated into that. They still trying to, disarm us, and it's not going to happen. The people are not going to comply. It's just not going to happen. But they're still trying, because what else can they do? They have nothing left to do but to scream all the way down.
yeah. They're never going to take the Americans' guns away. You would think they'd have learned that by now. That's never going to happen. But I mean, Biden threatened it. And I remember right after Biden was sworn in, a military man came on TikTok and said, if he orders us to come and remove the guns from American homes, he's going to make the military be the ones to do it. And the military serves to protect the Constitution, not the president. And the Constitution grants us the right to bear arms. So we're not going to come into your homes and take your guns. We're going to come into your homes and show you how to use them. And I remember that video. It was quickly taken down, but it was like, oh, Biden screwed, because the military serves an oath to the Constitution, which gives us Second Amendment right to protect ourselves. And so because they do keep trying. And it's so funny though, they're showing all these kids who are involved in these school shootings. And recently they've been kids that were trying to detransition that
Hmm.
were stuck. So it was like their own creation they then used to try to destroy, to blame on the other side that had it's just the all this genius could have been used for good, but instead it was used to try to be bad to it's just it's what I mean it's what the need. I still will never understand their need to want to control the world, because I have a hard time just controlling my dog on a leash. I don't know if I could ever want to. I don't care that much about, like, I'm too live and let live. Like, the fact that someone even want to, do these people just like not have a sense of self? And they're trying to fill that void by controlling other selves. Like, what is it about them that makes them have that desire to even want to control people?
Just that they're not like us, and they do not like us. They're
Mm.
soulless. They don't think in the same way, and they're following a DARPA artificial intelligence generated plan, and it's almost like they're programmed to that plan themselves. Where they can't
Yeah.
even think beyond it. They don't think of the consequences. They don't think further. They have no wisdom. That's why. I'm not afraid of artificial intelligence, because wisdom outthinks criminal minds and artificial intelligence every time, because we've got it all. But the fact is, they're trying to erode our humanity with mind control, when the greatest fear is the strength of the human spirit. Because when we have the strength of spirit, we win. It's our victory. It's our saving grace. So they can't, it's such a high vibration, they can't reach it. They're low vibration. The only thing they can do is use mind control, trauma after trauma after trauma, to try to
Yeah.
bring our vibration down, to make our conscious mind freeze and fright, so they can program the subconscious to not go within. If they do that, then we forget that we have all the power. We forget to align with our divine within, to gather the strength of the human spirit and the infinite power of love. The only thing they can do is stop us from thinking to access our victory. So that's artificial intelligence. That's what it's doing. And of course, there's no soul. So we know that soul is our saving grace. It gives us the wisdom. It gives us access to the strength of spirit and our victory.
One thing I wanted to ask you both, and they're very controversial, but I'm going to ask it anyway. But I'm just thinking through sort of well-known examples of what's going on. We've mentioned the sort of riots and the protests. I mean, now you're in the UK. If anyone belongs to a pro-Palestine group, they're arresting like people in their homes for being on Zoom meetings, attending, organizing pro-Palestine marches. I mean, it's literally gone unbelievable. I can't believe if that's true, because of course we're going on this based on what we're being shown on our social media feeds and everything. So you can't really believe any of it anymore. But do you think some high profile cases, like say what Candace Owens is doing with the Macrons, do you think that could sort of speed up the awakening process, or do you think it will put it back? Because it she's getting out to huge audiences to start asking questions about, is this whole structure a lie? Is their whole life a lie? And we're so obsessed as a public with celebrities. Do you think it's going to take some big takedown of some celebrity figures or high power politicians to actually get people to break the spell?
I think the spell's already breaking. Look at the Diddy case, and what you were saying about Britney Spears, and there's so many aspects of society that are totally unraveling. In the United States, we realize our system has been structured wrong. The whole child protective services, so-called child protective services, is nothing more than more human trafficking, and of course that's in my testimony, and it's detailed. My own daughter was thrust into the system, the corrupted system that I saw being formed. she was one of the first back then, and I began speaking out of love for her and concern for her 35 years ago. Well, 35 years later, there are so many people affected by that corrupt system that it's not even viable anymore. People know that it's not working. That's why I said safe houses are opening up over here by people helping people. We can't rely on the system anymore. So that system's already dismantling by natural progression, and it will continue to do so as more and more people wake up to realize how MK Ultra has permeated the entertainment industries, the churches, schools. We're seeing it all in every walk of life. So the awareness is the first step towards positive, necessary change. That change is happening. I have no idea what Candace Owens is doing. I don't follow her at all. I don't follow anyone. I do research information and look at the various things there, because everybody makes mistakes. Everybody puts bad information out and good information out, no matter how well intentioned they are. It's just there's so much out there. So as everyone reclaims that discernment and starts questioning information instead of blaming people, we're going to advance a lot faster further.
I think that's such a good point, don't you, Brice, as well? It's like you've got to take sometimes the personalities out of it, because actually today with online, where the AI can produce a video that looks like someone saying something that's not them, voice controls and things like that, it's so easy to share and be taken in by really misleading information that looks really genuine.
Yeah. And I will say, I know the one biggest difference between the darkness and the light is that the light has a sense of humor. And the amount of memes that I have seen come out of this Macron situation and his she-man wife from people is hysterical. And I don't think the darkness knows how to handle laughter, because laughter and humor come from a place of love, and so, and you're right, thinking about it too, like if you had asked me 10 years if the president of the United States, or the president of France, well, of the United States too at that point, but and his wife was a man that was actually connected to all this satanic stuff, I'd been like, you're crazy. But now everyone's like, yeah, duh, of course that's a man in there. Of course, you're right. Everybody knows, like, yeah, they're into satanic stuff. Everybody knows now that Hollywood is a trafficking ring. Everybody knows that it's connected to DC. And I think we do just have to just do our due diligence, and we know these things. This is what's happening. I think people are becoming more and more and more aware that even though there are good people that work in child protective services, surely there are a few good ones. Most of it is handled by a corrupt top, and the fish stinks from the head down, right? It comes from the top. And we've got to take that. I do have friends. It's funny because if you look at the American government now versus the Constitution, there's a lot that we're doing now that is very unconstitutional. And I know people now that are driving around with the Constitution in their wallet, and anytime they run into trouble, they just pull that Constitution out and show where certain things cannot be done. And it's working in some cases. Some cases they're like, it's starting, people are starting to take that power back little by little, even just by driving around with the Constitution in their pocket. My favorite, I guess we'll call it literature. I don't know what else to call it. It's a letter. And again, this was not to the British people, it was to the monarchy, as a Declaration of Independence. It's one of my favorites, because it says that there are certain inalienable rights that we have that cannot be taken away: life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, that all men are created equal. And that is so beautiful. And to remember that. They don't like that though, do they? They don't want us to think that we are all created equal and that we have life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness at our fingertips, because that's how we were created.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
So there's so much to be hopeful for. Let's finish off by saying, what are you hopeful for, Cathy? And then we'll come on to you, Brice, in terms of what are you really hoping to see over the next 6 months, year, that's going to really lift your heart up on a personal level and a collective level?
For me, I think my greatest hope would be that people continue to realize that this victim mentality is being deliberately perpetuated in order to create compliance and to create this slave society agenda, to push that forward. We got a long way to go to remember who we are and why we're here, to go within and realize our own power. More and more people are realizing it now, but we do have a ways to go. That I'm so concerned for the Epstein survivors speaking out too soon, and yet I reflect back on the numbers of victims, the same scenario, same setup, same purpose at Bohemian Grove, and how very, very few survived at all because they were just eliminated. I barely escaped that demise myself, So there's so many more survivors who are alive now because awareness has reached this point. Because people do know what Epstein was about. So they're at least, they have survived. They've reached this point. Now let's help them. Now let's allow them to be in a safe place where they can begin their healing process from within the way that it's intended to be.
I love it. And what about you, Brice?
Well, I second that, but I also too, something about one thing that I've noticed lately is just for there's such a war against white people right now. They're trying to destroy white people. And I have seen so many Black creators on TikTok who are, it makes me emotional. They're going out of their way to defend white people and talk about how we are all brothers and sisters. And I don't know why it makes it just the love that's coming from these people who are being taught that white people are bad, but yet they're standing up saying, no, my best friend's white. We're brothers and sisters and we can appreciate each other's culture. And, there's this trend on TikTok where Black people are going, hey, white people, I have a question for you. Will you be my friend? And if that's where we're going, where people just love each other and support each other and give each other space to be free, and to celebrate I have a huge problem. I love God, huge fan of God, but I don't like religions. I want people to be free to celebrate that spirit within them and that we respect each other. I don't know why that got me emotional, but that's what I hope for the future, is that we're not falling for this shit anymore, that we are all just here on this rock, living the best we can and creating and respecting each other and celebrating each other's cultures, not comparing them in a bad way, but celebrating them for their uniqueness. And I think most people at the end of the day are good and want that and will come out of this.
I agree with both of you, and I would just add an extra little bit on at the end for me, where I really hope there are times when we realise that it's not all just about the human race, and actually if we extended our compassion and thoughts and how we live and interact with nature and all creatures great and small, that connection would make us treat our other humans with a lot more of that respect. And that once we see through the divide and conquer plan and we support each other, then everything will change very, very quickly.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much, Cathy. We've absolutely loved it, haven't we, Brice? Thank you so much for everyone watching, and we really appreciate. Let's finish off. How can people get your books and support you?
They can find me on my website, trance-formation.com, TRANCE-formation.com. I've got blog posts. My books are posted there. My books are all on Audible. I read them myself, so to preserve the integrity of information. That's where people can find me, and they can reach out to me there too.
Absolutely lovely. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. And if you feel inspired, please do share with your friends and family. This helps us spread the word and also helps me encourage some exciting new guests to take part in this podcast. And above all, stay curious and stay free.